9 years ago from now, I started my gaming journey since 2017. I enjoy all genres from shooting, action adventure, horror survival, action survival, sports, you name it. I had a very strict Hispanic parents. Growing up with them, I'm sure some of you a lot who are also Hispanic like me could relate how growing up in a Spanish household feels like. So anyway, they could limit me playing games into 2 hours, But oh boy, how did those 2 hours felt like the best 2 hours of the day. The good just came to an end after 2 years of my parents decided to move out, which forced me to sell my PlayStation. This didn't make sense, but let's pretend it did for my parents. It was a PS4, by the way, which was my primary platform to play games. And since then I lost that. The PlayStation, since I lost it, I also lost that need, the thirst that I had for gaming. This is my story how the Resident Evil franchise got me back into gaming again. After quitting games, I surely got cursed after selling the PS4 because other tragedies kept happening in life since then. Also, the fact that the quality of games dropped from the sky. Eventually, I bought a PC since those tragedies, I bought multiple games before I began. I had a hope that those days will be back again. It was foolish for me to think that. As I got quote-unquote back to gaming, after trying the new games that I wanted to play, it felt like they didn't hit the same anymore. It felt so bland, like it was so soulless. How can the gameplay be so generic? The story didn't feel like it's part of my character arc, if you get what I mean. It's like when you're playing something and you feel like you are that main character or whatever. The graphic got better, but that's the only thing about it. The quantity, or quality as they say. Matter of fact, I even bought a PS5 a few months later and started to play games like Miles Morales, Horizon Forbidden West. Still the same, it didn't hit the same, for me as it did earlier when I first started the gaming. It made me ask, what happened to the story, the gameplay, the characters? Am I becoming a boomer or what? I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy some games, because I did. I did enjoy games like FIFA and GTA. They were enjoyable, but they weren't enough to bring me back into the gaming. They only felt good if you play it once in a while, like after a week or maybe 2 weeks when you have some free time, because you cannot be bothered to play it. And suddenly one day I came across a TikTok edit. I know it sounds funny for some of you a lot, because not a lot of you use TikTok. Anyway, the edit was of Leon, If I remember correctly, it was the beginning of Resident Evil 2 remake, when Leon was on his way to RPD and he was late. One of the comment section said. And suddenly, one day I came across a TikTok edit of Leon Kennedy. If I remember correctly, it was the beginning of Resident Evil 2 remake, I think. Yeah, when Leon was on his way to RPD and he was late. One of the comment sections said, quote, "It makes it more crazy when you realize Leon was late for work because he just had a breakup, still got to work." Quote. And just only because of this comment, it got me so hooked up, so interested and curious. And I was like, you know what, let me give it a shot, because why not? It was in summer and my uni just ended. And I tell you what, it was one of the best thing I had done in gaming. That was one hell of a ride. It felt like I'm a child again, It felt that magic in me the first time I held that PlayStation controller. The story of Resident Evil 2, the character of Leon Kennedy, the gameplay made a little child in me awake again. The survival horror aspect was so perfect. The Mr. X gave me trauma each time it was, chasing me, the tyrant, the noise of his boots when it's coming, it just created a different feeling, It was like the perfect horror for me. The Leon and Ada arc also made it much better and made the story hit harder. I'm not lying, I'm not the only one in real life who experienced this from Resident Evil, let alone friends from online as well. Because I made 3 of my friends in real life play it along with my girlfriend, and they all say the same, that Resident Evil speak, at least for the horror genre. I was not a big fan of the horror genre, but again, what choice did I have other than Resident Evil games? Even though I heard of Resident Evil before, but I never tried because I found it too scary after hearing other people say about it and their reviews. Regardless, the horror genre usually had either mid-story, and mid character but with good graphics, or it had bad graphics with good story but terrible character, or bad all of them. However, Resident Evil had everything. The new RE engine makes Resident Evil look like close to realism. It was so realistic that sometimes I was confusing it with my own home. Of course not, it's not as bad as that one. Anyway, now combine that realism with that story, with that level of story, and with that level of good characters like Leon, Ada, and Claire, as well as Mr. X if you count. Personally, my favorite is Leon. His character is humorous because he's pulling silly jokes in serious moments. At the same time, I feel bad for him because you know what he had to went through in the game. And also, I have never replayed any game more than once in my life. I has felt bored or lost interest because I already know what's gonna happen later on. However, I tried to replay a game, but with Resident Evil 2, I replayed it a total of 4 times. And of course, in the future, I will, maybe more. I could never imagine myself replaying games for the 4th time, let alone first time replaying it. Yet here we are. Well, I'm not going to review every single Resident Evil game, but then I played it. I will just speak shortly and briefly about my experience with other Resident Evil games now. Played Resident Evil 4, which had the best gameplay I experienced in years. Leon's character transformed and grew to even better, you know. Now he isn't the same innocent boy anymore. He became a man, and he matured and has experience. The Leon and Ada arc continued. Then Resident Evil 7 took to another level, you know, which brought me back to gaming permanently. Well, at least since the past few years. Resident Evil 7, it's the revival of the franchise. If it wasn't for the Resident Evil 7, I wouldn't get the chance to play RE2 Remake. I wouldn't be making a video about it now, obviously. And RE2 was fun, the gameplay was very good. It took an inspiration from RE4 as well, I see. But it was sad, you know, and it's different when you have a loving dad than as a child. Anyway, only Capcom could write such a great story, and the final cherry on top. Never in my life have I pre-ordered any game until RE9. RE9 pre-order happened, I pre-ordered it. I knew since day one RE9 is gonna be goated. That's how much faith I had in Resident Evil franchise. And boy, I was so damn right. Thanks a lot Capcom for awakening the gamer in me. Can't wait to pre-order the Code Veronica game. Anyway, I know it sounds silly to pre-order games, but it's quite common when the game releases and you cannot buy it because of so many reasons. And also, in no means I'm claiming to be an OG. I'm new to this franchise and all things I've said, just my opinions only, you know. But you're free to criticize me or point out if any of my opinions sounded silly. And last but not least, and from now I'm gonna be starting the Resident Evil talks and what I think, you know, and everything I use. I'm not using AI or anything, so this is my first time doing it. So please support me and help me grow this channel. I will bring in more and more interesting topics and stories from the Resident Evil lore. Peace out.